Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy AA on 2 for 20, and I am bringing you guys my IBA Week 2 game versus Poijz, coach of the Detroit Littens. Now, this was an exciting game. I actually had this game on my stream. Again, I'm going to plug this every single week and mention how every single week I stream all my IBA games on my Twitch, unless if it's my Week 3 game, which had issues. But besides that, I'm going to stream all my IBA games on my Twitch, twitch.tv/AA on 2 for 20. Link down below with all my other links, such as my Discord, Twitter, and also my Weebly. If you guys want to check out my Weebly, I do sister recordings, such as this one. And also, I can gen for you guys. I have tons of different stuff. I'm actually setting up currently a drive as well with a bunch of different examples of backgrounds. That way, then you guys have much more variety to choose from and better examples of full showcases of the GIFs. So I'm currently working on that. I offer a lot of different services. If it's not on the website, I'm currently going to edit the website to add more stuff in. But you can also hit me up if there's certain custom firm related things you need help with. With this team, I would like to thank my personal fetus, Omega Jolteon, aka Omega Fetus. He helped me a lot this week with this team, mostly in call, but he helped me patch up a couple things on the side. So, you know, I really appreciate Omega. His links will be down below. I'll probably link a playlist of his at the end, or either that or an IBA coach. I'm not certain yet. I mean, Omega did help a lot, and I know Omega's also an IBA coach, so I'm currently still deciding on that. You'll see at the end, though, when you click on the end cards, because they're very good, and you should click on the content creator at the very least, if not myself. Though you guys should still click on me. So I just remembered, I actually never posted Poijz's matchup in my front office chat, so bear with me 1 second as I actually try and find it. But this week, I actually mentioned it in my last IBA video. I know I mentioned it a couple times on stream as well, but something I was very, very scared of with Poijz's team was that Poijz's team is extremely hard to break. It is just, well, not extremely hard to break. It's extremely hard to not get broken by. That's the better way to phrase it. I finally loaded up. His team is Kieran Black, Jirachi, Mega Gardevoir, Rotom Wash, Shaman, Entei, Hitmonchan, Miltank, Banette, Lando I, Sandforce, and Slowking. So a few things. One, Lando I actually, even with Sandforce, is still a scary wall breaker. It's not as good of a wall breaker as Sheer Force is, but it's still actually something to be terrified about, or at the very least to consider in prep, I should say. Not to be terrified about it. I'd never be terrified of that. Well, actually, now that I bring it up, I was about to save it for the end, but Scarf Lando I actually does a lot to my team. Especially the team I brought, Scarf Lando I kind of manhandles it. So there is counterplay, of course, but my team doesn't handle it that well. So Scarf Lando I was actually something I was really scared about. He also, in addition to that, has Kieran Black, Mega Gardevoir, and Entei for wall breakers. And even things like Rachi could set up and potentially be a lot for my team to handle. Even the Thunderwave Rachi, which is actually, spoiler, that's what he brought, could be really scary for my team, because I'm trying to counter him in all his Scarfers by Thunderwave. But if he then counters my Speedy Mons with Thunderwave, then that's a real detriment to my team, actually, this week. So that's another thing, I guess, that I'm really worried about. So I'm really just trying to counterplay around that, I guess. So another thing, actually, this was a really benefit to me, though. His team peaks at 101 speed. So I already know, at bare minimum, he's going to need a Scarfer or two. My guess is 2 Scarfers will be where he peaks, but he's going to need at least a Scarfer or 2. So that could very well play into our benefit. So I guess that my last thing would be that I feel like of those Scarfers, that Lando I has to come as a Scarfer. It's the only Scarfer I could see being logical, because if Poijz is trying to make sure he is outspeeding me, I'm sure he needs to think about how he needs to make sure his ground type, his Scarfer is a ground type, so it doesn't get paralyzed. So unless he's running like Scarf, Offensive, Rotom Wash, which if Poijz is doing that, then props to Poijz for out prepping me, I guess. But at the same time, I'm not really scared of Scarf, Rotom Wash. I have a lot of prep for it, I feel like. So yeah, without further ado, I talked enough about the team, though. Let's get right into my team, because I talked enough about his. I have first Mega Mind, our Uxie. This has Stealth Rocks, Foul Play, Psyshock, and Thunderwave with a Bold Nature and Wookiee Berry. This is meant to take hits from things such as Entei and Physical Cure and Black, as they're a little bit scary for my team, and I figured this could handle the physical wall breakers on my opponent's team. If he's Scarf Entei, I'm not scared of it. Not Scarf Entei. Yeah, if he is Scarf Entei, I'm still not scared of it. This is meant to take hits from even a Scarf Adamant Entei. Even like a Life Orb Entei, it's meant to take hits from. But if he Scarves Lando, that's what it's gonna say. I'm not scared of it at all. With my Uxie, it can't really do anything. Knockoff is the best play it has, but even then, it can't necessarily beat me 1v1, because I do have things like Foul Play, for example, that beat it. This is really just meant to handle like the Entei, And if I lose my berry, then this thing becomes instant sack fodder because I have no recovery. But it's sort of just meant to be a check that can just keep going back, I guess, because of the berry, and then just start doing Thunderwave things, I guess, just paralyzing everything, and then going for rocks early game to just chip Poij's team early on, as the team's fairly rock weak. Next up, we have KMJ next, our Bisharp, with Iron Head, Knockoff, Stone Edge, and Sucker Punch. This is actually a really solid Scarfer versus Poij's team, as the speed tiers are really bad. I feel like that Kieran Black, if it's going to be a threat at all to my team, it can't be a Scarfer. If it's a Scarf Kieran Black, I'm actually more content with that, to be honest, because Scarf Kieran Black would mean that I actually have switch-ins, being like UC, for example, or at least counterplay, like a remote counterplay to it. Sucker Punch is just in case, if he has like an obnoxious amount of Scarfers, I can always pick them off with Sucker Punch, because otherwise, then I'm going to, or even if my Scarfer gets knocked off, for example, I do have counterplay to his fast mons with my Sucker Punch. Knockoff is really just for utility. Stone Edge, I guess, is just to hit things like Entei better, because otherwise Entei could potentially take a hit, especially if it's Z, because I believe his Z mons as of that week were Entei and Shaman. Yeah, they were Entei and Shaman. So that's at the very least something nice that I guess I could have, is if he's Z Entei, Stone Edge would hit a lot better than Knockoff would ever. So that's a benefit, I guess, but I didn't really need Stone Edge. It was mostly just Knockoff spam versus his team and Iron Head for things like the Kyurem. But yeah, that's really it for KMJ next. Next we have a Kiza, our Roserade, with a Modest Nature Payapa Berry. This is meant to take hits from things like the Jirachi, because I could potentially set up Toxic Spikes versus his team, and then force him to switch in on them, as if he gets Toxic Spikes stacked, then his team is in such a bad position, because his team has no recovery. His Cleric has Mega Gardevoir, which I don't even really see coming, if I'm being completely honest. But this could also be a potential check to Mega Gardevoir, as Mega Gardevoir does come in. I can beat it 1v1 with Sludge Bomb plus Rocks up, and then he can't kill me off no matter what. No matter what psychic move he goes for, he cannot kill me. And a Fairy Move's not going to kill me, neither is HP Fire. So I could do that. This is also going to be a really solid Rotom Wash check, because I'm meant to outspeed any sort of Rotom Wash variant that could be imaginable. In fact, I'm Sped Crept for an uninvested speed-wise Mega Gardevoir, and also Rachi by circumstance, because they're both base 100 Mons, and I figured they could also be really fat as a matchup. Both of them have really solid matchups being fat Mons. So I can see either of them being fat sets and just trying to take hits for Poijz. So if that's the case, then I'm going to outspeed them both and potentially be able to even get up dual Toxic Spikes, and that's going to whittle down his team so fast. I do realize he does have a couple defoggers, such as potential Lando Eye, which I don't see running defog at all, and Rotom Wash, which I could see actually being a defogger. For example, they would both avoid Toxic Spike immunity, both have Toxic Spike immunity, but I don't think that Rotom Wash is ever going to get an instance to get up defog, and even then I always switch in Roserade and then get up another Toxic Spike for free. So I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, that's it for Akiza. Next up, I have Padanisin, our Ursaring. Padanisin has an amazing matchup this week with Quick Feet, with the Flame Orb. Now, I actually choked about this. I didn't realize this, because Omega sort of, basically, how I went through this team is Omega, and I'm not blaming Omega for this at all. This is something I should have checked. But Omega gave me like a skeleton of mons I should run. He mentioned things like Quick Feet Ursaring did really well as a matchup. I have never really run a Quick Feet mod before. I assumed it worked like Guts, or it ignored Burn. I had assumed that Guts also ignored all status. Apparently it only ignores Burn, so that's another thing, I guess. But apparently Quick Feet only ignores the speed drop, and Guts only ignores the burn drop from attack. Now, these are two things I never knew about. So that I guess explains why people run Toxic Orb on Ursaring. So my Flame Orb only would not ignore the burn drop if I clicked Facade. And while it's not the biggest deal in the world, that does mean that it's actually doing more damage than Crunch would do to Jirachi by like 5%. Actually, no, never mind. It was still doing the drop. So regardless, it was doing the attack drop. So I sort of choked with the Flame Orb, because I could have actually like raped Poijz's team with a Toxic Orb with Padanisin. But I'm not going to spoil the outcome of the game. But that doesn't necessarily mean I win or lose the game. I'm just saying that Padanisin could have literally 6-0'd had I done that. So regardless though, I do think though that Padanisin is a major threat to Poijz, because any Scarfers are going to get outsped by this thing. And any Scarfers that he does have, well, any non-Scarfers are going to get outsped. Any Scarfers that he has, I'm going to be able to Thunder Wave with, for example, my Uxie. And I can also pick off with like Sucker Punch on Bisharp. So I'm not overly worried, and even then his Scarfers are going to have to switch in a lot on hazards, and his potential Scarfers are all not going to like taking rocks damage. Entei and Kieran Black especially are going to hate taking rocks. because they're both coming in and taking like 25% from rocks. So I want to be either of them switching in on rocks, and they're also not going to like being toxic spiked. So I do think that Pedani-san has an actual like really solid matchup this game. But you just have to believe in Pedani-san, and he will believe in all of us. Next up we have the Flying Bird, who is best friends with the boy Pedani-san, with Hidden Power Grass, Hurricane, Heatwave, and Roost. I've Hidden Power Grass this week because his best switch into Pidgeot, in fact his only switch into Pidgeot, would be, his only two would be Jirachi, which gets bought by Hurricane, and Rotom Wash, which is, if it's Fizz Def, it's actually 2-hit KO by Hidden Power Grass. If he's Spit F, which I could very well see because this is like his only good Mega Pidgeot switch in, then I could very well see him switching in that and being Spit F, and then that being like a 3-hit KO. Which, if he does, then props to him, but he can't switch in forever because of Hidden Power Grass pressuring him a lot, along with rocks. So, Mega Pidgeot actually could put in a lot of work. I just gotta pressure the right mons really well, and Bird could end up potentially also being a good sweeper for us. I just gotta find out a Scarfer and nip it real early on. Finally, we have Brisbane, our Buzzwole. This is a backup Scarfer this week, in case if Bisharp gets Thunderwaved. I do still have Brisbane, our Buzzwole, with Leech Life, Superpower, Earthquake, and Ice Punch. Brisbane's coverage, I actually picked up Brisbane, and this is sort of why I still had Scarf Bisharp in the build as a Scarfer, because I really, I was playing Poijz, I think, like Tuesday night, and I picked up Brisbane Sunday night of the week before, because I was like, okay, you know, I messaged Poijz, I think, like Friday or Saturday, scheduling our game for Tuesday, because I was like, okay, you know, let's schedule early, and I picked up Buzzwole, like, Sunday. I was like, oh, by the way, I just picked up Buzzwole for a game, I hope that's okay. So I still had this team already that I already worked on, I think, since like Thursday or Friday night. And I was like, you know, Buzzwole is really good, and I really can't make a Zygarde set work this game. I was so close to bringing Zygarde again, yes. The meme, I guess, will be the season that, like, Turbo doesn't bring his Mega Pinsir, or, like, how Turbo doesn't bring his Kieran Black, and Chili doesn't bring his Mega Pinsir in the D-League. I'm not going to bring my Zygarde 50% ever. So, Brisbane, though, I feel like, though, has a really solid matchup in this game. And I felt like having it not as a Scarfer would have been a crime, so I'm going to bring another Scarfer this week. I think this will literally be a battle of Scarfers, because I'm sure the Poijz will be bringing a few on his end as well. But I feel like the dual Scarf, though, works really well against Poijz's team, because his team cannot... His Scarfers get pressured a ton easier than mine do. My Buzzwole, for example, doesn't need to come in until late game. There's no possible scenario where I would need to bring this in early unless I choke. And even then, I guess that would be my late game. And it still does put in a ton of work. His team really doesn't have good switch into this at all. So I can tentatively just see what's left in the field, pick the right coverage move, and just start spamming. And that's very easy because a lot of his team isn't going to like take, for example, an Earthquake at +1 or a Superpower at just neutral because it's going to keep dropping my attack. Or a Leech Life at +1. It just, his team doesn't have good switch into these moves. So I feel like, though, that, well, besides Ice Punch, but Ice Punch is just to bop Lando, as I feel like a Scarf Lando could be scary, but he has nothing on his moveset besides Hidden Power Flying, which if he was bringing Hidden Power Flying, I mean, props to Poijz for bringing Hidden Power Flying Buzzwole. I am for bringing Hidden Power Flying for Buzzwole. I just don't see it coming. So, yeah, I mean, that's my team for this week, though. I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you guys in the game. So as you can see, my opponent brings the Lando Eye, Kieran Black, Rotom Wash, Mega Gardevoir, Jirachi, and the Entei. So basically you can say he's bringing his big six in this matchup, which I could definitely see. Looking at his team, I anticipate, and this is what I'm sort of banking off of, I anticipate Rocks and Jirachi because I don't think that Lando can actually afford it. If he's not bringing Rocks and Jirachi, my team is so safe versus Poijz because there's no way in hell he's bringing Rocks and Lando. As looking at this team, it has to be a Scarfer. Entei, I actually thought it was going to be potentially Z Entei, as a Z Flare Blitz could potentially be a way to break through like Yuxi without taking a ton of recoil, and then he could just spam Sacred Fire as well, because by that point I'd probably be in range unless if, you know, Barry Yuxi, but he doesn't need to know I'm Barry Yuxi. I see Rocks Rachi, as I mentioned. I see especially defensive Mega Gardevoir with a Fizz Death Rotom Wash, because the two of them in tandem, I think, could actually be really solid. I think Rachi, when I say it's Rocks, I'm thinking it's going to be Rocks, like Thunder Wave, and then just dual stab, I guess. Whether that's physical or special, it's up to him. But I feel like, or even if not dual stab, like a psychic move, not a psychic, steel move, and then like a fighting move to lure Bisharp if he has like a Colbur Berry. I think that either of those could be actually really solid sets. But I do think, though, Mega Gardevoir is going to be an actual wall, being Death, and it's going to have like Wish, for example, for his team. And I think that Rotom Wash is going to be Fizz Death. I think that Kieran Black could also be another Scarfer, actually, but I think it's going to potentially just be like a Life Orb set to just try and break through my team in tandem with the Entei. So, looking at his team, Poijz has a lot of actually really solid leads. He could lead off with something such as Entei, for example, and just try and scout my lead, and if that's a good matchup, just start spamming fire moves, because my team doesn't have the best switch-ins to it. I also get to saw Lando I lead, for example, and just try and gain momentum on me, same as Rachi. So I lead off with Yuxi. I feel like it's my best overall lead, as Eevee to take on all those mons. He leads off with his Lando I, of course. So by this logic, I think he's either going to be Rocks or a Scarfer. I don't think he would have led any other set. And he goes for the knockoff here, and gets rid of my berry, which is actually really detrimental to Yuxi for late game. And losing that turn 1 is actually really awful for me. But I really wanted these Rocks up, because I feel like Rocks are way too urgent versus Poijz's team. And he's actually going to withdraw here, and he is going to go out into Soulless, which ends up being his Mega Gardevoir. So I don't know why he went out into this personally on my Yuxi, but I didn't exactly want to stay in and find out, because there wasn't really a ton of reason. I feel like there was still a little bit that I could do, but I didn't want to potentially just let this thing Calm Mind on my team and then just 6-0. So regardless, I didn't want to give it the free Calm Mind opportunity, because had he just went for Calm Mind here, that could have been extremely detrimental. Now if he goes for Sub here and then Calm Mind, that might just be game right up front, but I didn't want to exactly just let him get the opportunity. So I stay in and take the Hyper Voice. I figured at this point, without my berry, I'm sack fodder anyway, and I'm going to go for Thunder Wave. So at the very least, this Mega Gardevoir is now useless, and I feel like that's actually really beneficial, because one, I now know he's fairly offensive on his build. Even if he's not speedy, I know he's at the very least offensive. And two, he's now paralyzed, so that means he can't Wish Pass. So, crit foul play, I don't know if that overly mattered, but at the very least, it does allow us to make sure that we are wearing this thing down a lot more if he is a bulkier build. And I can go right into Donison here, because he doesn't have Banet to switch in on potential Facade. And realistically, I get a free Protect here, and then I can just start killing things with Donison, because Donison is a very broken boy. I do see that he's Thunder Wave here, which could have actually been very scary. In fact, I'm not going to lie though, I would have actually preferred taking Thunder Wave, because then I would have been status, Quick Feet would have ignored the drop, and then I would have been fine to just sweep through a seam. So if anything, that was a choke on my end, but there's no way that I would have possibly risked taking a Hyper Voice. It's obnoxious. So I do kill off the Mega Gardevoir, of course, which is actually really solid for me. He's going to go back into Was Poppin' though, and I can't outspeed this if he is a Scarfer. So I'm going to go for Protect and try and scout what move he's going to go for. Because if I can figure out what move he's going to go for, I can switch around and figure out and see if I can potentially see if this is a Scarfer or not. Because if he is, what I see here is he goes for Earthquake. So if I go into my Mega Pidgeot, if he is not a Scarfer, he's going to click Stone Edge. There's no reason not to. And I feel like stacking Mega Pidgeot to seeing a Stone Edge from Lando is extremely vital to a late game plan, because that means Donison can actually sweep anyway. So, seeing though that he is a Scarfer and goes into Rotom Wash, aka his wife, which, shout out to Poijz, that's a really, really clever nickname, I'll give you that. But, seeing he goes into Rotom Wash here with my Mega Pidgeot does show that he is definitely a Scarf Lando, and me predicting that and going for Hidden Power Grass right away was actually really solid, because I do know two things now. One, that he's a Spinef Rotom Wash, and two, that he's Scarf Lando. So we have already nailed his Scarfer in the bag. Sadly, it's not one that I could have Thunder Waved, but that's fine. I did sack my Rachi anyway. I know, not my Rachi, my UC anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. I do go regardless into Akiza here, our Roserade, as it could take any hit from Rotom Wash possible. We do take a little bit more than I anticipated from Thunderbolt, but he might have just thrown a tiny bit into Special Attack. I'm not sure. Maybe he just got a high roll. Who knows? But he does withdraw here. I knew he had to withdraw here. There's no possible way he stayed in. And he goes in to Touch Me, his Jirachi. So, already, beautiful nicknames, Poijz. I do go for Toxic Spikes here, though. I do want this Karen Black, for example, getting whittled down, because Karen Black is still a really scary mon for my team. And if I can wear it down in any way possible, I'm going to. So, he does bring in his Jirachi here, and I do want to test speed. And I do the Payapa Berry, and he did lose his Mega Gardevoir. So I'm going to test speed, because, of course, I can just afford to do it. So he's actually going to go for Rocks here, which, as I said, Rocks Rachi I sort of anticipated, and I could always preserve my berry for later on if I needed it. I'm going to go into KMJ next here, our Bisharp. In hindsight, had I just hard swap Bisharp here, I would have been in a lot better of a position. But it's not overly the biggest deal in the world, because he's just going to go for Side Shock and I get a free switch in regardless. I'm going to go for Knockoff here, and he's actually going to live, because he's probably some sort of really bulky set, and of course, I'm a Scarfer, not an offensive set. And he's going to get the Thunder Wave off, which is actually awful for us that we are getting paralyzed on our Bisharp. It's a lot more awful than it looks up front, because he's going to switch out into Was Poppin' here. And at this point, I wanted to just see what he's going to click, and see if he's going to maybe overpredict me. I mean, this thing is paralyzed anyway, so what am I going to preserve it for? So he's going to go for Stone Edge here. And at this point, I see how little Stone Edge does. And I'm like, oh my god, I can actually just wait this out. Because eventually I'm not going to get paralyzed. So I've now been paralyzed twice, though. He's going to go for Stone Edge yet again. And I figured that I'm just going to wait this out, though. Because if I can knock off his Scarf and Lando, that is extremely beneficial to my late game. Because now Poijz has one more mon it can kill. He's going to withdraw here, however. Seeing how I have now ended up getting paralyzed for like 4 turns, and he's seeing how useless this is going to be. So he's going to bring back in his Rachi. I think he just brought it in to wish up his team. Regardless, though, I think I got paralyzed another. Yeah, I got paralyzed another turn, and he stays in here. I think he's trying to just get his Rachi back up to full and test the waters here. Wait, no, he actually goes into Rotom here. His Rotom Wash, and ends up taking this knockoff actually really awfully. Because this is the one turn I don't get paralyzed for. I do respect Poijz for trying to wish up on my paralyzed mon with how often I got paralyzed, but it did end up biting him in the ass because he did lose a vital mon to winning, because now Mega Pidgeot puts in so much work versus his team. I just have to get rid of Lando, and I could potentially put in work. So Edge does come in here, and does get poisoned and takes Stealth Rock damage. So he is actually going to go for the Sacred Fire here, and I dodge. So what I told Poijz is I call that karma for all the paralyzed that I had happen. So he is going to take a poison here and is going to whittle himself down, of course. Here he is going to go for Sacred Fire and he's going to actually hit. So that's perfectly fine by me. I don't really need Bisharp. As I said, I got paralyzed. The crit really didn't matter. There's no world that mattered in. I was at half HP with the Bisharp being a Steel type. So he does have Entei here at a tiny bit of HP. I can bring in Poijz and just protect and let this thing kill itself off at this point. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I figured that there's no possible way he can switch out here because it's just sack fodder at that point. So Poijz goes for Protect and indirectly gets an assist here as he's just going to go for Ace Speed. Me knocking off his Scarf, of course, he's trying to probably just provide that he gets any sort of damage off. I was not going to grant him any sort of damage because if I took even a little bit more damage on Poijz, that's a little bit more damage I had to worry about later on. He does bring in Was Poppin' here, his Lando Eye. And I see he only has 3 mons left, and I'm starting to feel like I could just try and play around, see if I could potentially take whatever hit he goes for, and click Facade. He is going to, of course, take a ton of damage from Facade, and he's actually going to lose his Lando here, which is extremely awesome for us. He did lose his Dex Scarfer, and at this point, I think Poijz might even be able to just sweep, because I don't know what the rest of his team looks like, but assuming he doesn't have a 3rd Scarfer on his team, I could actually just win this game with Poijz. And of course, you know, Poijz getting 4 kills, that's a steak for Poijz right there. He's just going to eat this Karen Black steak, medium rare. Not medium rare, medium well, because that's the only way to get a steak at this point. So, I'm going to scout and just see what he's going to go for, as I sort of wanted to see if maybe he's just trying to scare me out and maybe double out into something else, trying to overpredict. I wasn't overly sure at this point. I just went for the Protect just to also try and gain more toxic damage off as well, as I figured that any more damage I can get is really beneficial. He does prove that he's another Scarfer here, though. And 3 Scarfers, boys, I gotta give you credit. I mean, I know your speed tiers are bad, but at the very least, you had a solid way around it, I'll give you that. However, it is not solid enough, because I do have Brisbane or Buzzwole. Brisbane can take an Ice Beam, and it can pick off everything else left on this game. So he's gonna go for Ice Beam here, but that is not going to be enough. Despite our 39, I think, base special defense, Brisbane is going to superpower Poijz into the next dimension. We are going to take a physical attack and physical defense drop, but it's not going to matter because we are also going to gain that right back up real quick. And because of our Beast Boost, we're now in a position where we can just click Superpower one more time and win this game. Because Touch Me is not at an HP level that it wants to take any hits, let alone a Superpower, which is neutral and stab from a Buzzwole of all things. So between Poijz and Buzzwole, the Poijz Esports Association is really looking good. They're getting their representation here for the Aussie VGC community, and we're gonna pick up a solid 3-0 win versus Poijz. Poijz Poijz gave me a good run for my money, I'll give him that. I really did not anticipate with his awful speed tiers, no offense Poijz, but I know I talked to you about that after the match. Your speed tiers are not the best, but I do think that you actually made them work really well. So massive props to Poijz. I know Poijz doesn't exactly play a lot of Wi-Fi, but hell, he played really well. I actually was really scared I could have actually lost that game. And had I made a couple other mispredicts, in fact, had I actually brought Zygarde this game over Buzzwole, which is a very, very last second change. I think I made that like day of, a few hours before a game. But had I not brought Buzzwole to that game, I would have actually lost late game to Scarf Karen Black. So of course, I really do give Poijz a lot of credit. He played really well. He played like a league competitor, to be honest. So make sure you check him out. I know he didn't exactly. I know he struggled a lot getting leagues earlier on, but hell, I would vouch for this kid. He's played really solid. I think he'd give anyone in any league a run for their money. So if you're looking for someone, of course, hit up Poijz in the future. Obviously, I know he has a couple leagues going on right now, but in the future, if he's ever looking for leagues, guys, hit this man up. He is a really solid competitor. I know he, of course, has a few different people he talks with who are actual, like, real competitors as well. So, again, hit him up along with everyone else in the IBA. I would recommend all of them. They're all fantastic coaches. Check them all out. Links in the description below. Check out Omega as well. He helped me with my team this week, at least vaguely. But, I mean, I still got to give Omega credit. He gave me direction where I had none. He also gave me a lot of insight into my team, besides not letting me know how quick feet works. But that's something, again, I should have checked on my own. But Padani's still putting a lot of work there, so I can't shake him on that. If you guys did enjoy, though, leave a like down below. I'm really looking forward to our Week 3 game versus Super. I've played Super a ton of times. I still have yet to actually beat Super in a league format game. So I'm hoping that this may be the one that I can beat him in. If not, then it's no worries. We'll still be 2-1. If it is, though, then we'll go undefeated out of our division, which is amazing to start off, as I usually start off negative in division. Otherwise, though, I will see you guys when the Week 3 game hits. And until then, I will see you guys. Peace.